There is a strange moment many people experience at some point in their lives. A moment where two people feel an intense pull toward each other. Even though they barely know one another, the connection feels electric. Every glance carries meaning. Every conversation feels charged with possibility. And yet, when they try to explain what they are feeling, the answer becomes surprisingly unclear. Because what they are experiencing may not actually be love. It may be something else, something more volatile, something that can feel even stronger than love itself. Psychologists call this experience sexual tension. It is the feeling that something powerful exists between two people, something not yet expressed, not yet fulfilled, but constantly present beneath the surface of their interactions. Sexual tension is not simply attraction, and it is not the same as emotional attachment. It is a psychological state created by anticipation, curiosity, and emotional uncertainty. And what makes it so fascinating is that sexual tension can sometimes feel more intense than love itself. In fact, many people remember the tension they once felt with someone long after they have forgotten the details of actual relationships. But why does this happen? Why can the possibility of intimacy sometimes feel stronger than the intimacy itself? Why can the anticipation of connection create more emotional intensity than the connection that eventually follows? To understand this, we have to explore something deeper about the human mind. Because sexual tension is not simply about physical attraction. It is about the way the brain responds to unresolved emotional energy. And unresolved emotional energy is one of the most powerful psychological forces that exists between two people. One of the most important psychological principles behind sexual tension is something researchers call the unfinished experience effect. The human mind has a natural tendency to remain focused on experiences that feel incomplete. When something meaningful begins but does not reach a clear conclusion, the brain continues thinking about it, replaying it, trying to understand what might happen next. This is why unresolved conversations stay in our minds longer than resolved ones. It is why unanswered questions feel more powerful than questions that have already been answered. And it is why sexual tension can feel so intense. Because sexual tension exists in a space where something important has begun, but nothing has been completed. Two people sense the attraction. They notice each other. They feel the emotional energy in the room. But the connection remains suspended between possibility and action. And that suspension creates psychological focus. The brain becomes fascinated with the unanswered question. What could happen between us? As long as that question remains unanswered, the emotional energy remains alive. Another reason sexual tension can feel stronger than love lies in the way the brain processes anticipation. The human brain is designed to respond strongly to anticipation. In fact, neuroscience shows that the brain often releases more dopamine during anticipation than during the reward itself. Dopamine is not the chemical of pleasure. It is the chemical of expectation. It signals that something meaningful might happen soon. When two people experience sexual tension, their brains enter a heightened state of anticipation. Every small interaction becomes significant. A brief touch, a lingering look, a subtle shift in tone. These moments create emotional spikes inside the brain. The mind begins imagining possibilities, imagining outcomes, imagining what might happen if the tension between them were finally resolved. And imagination amplifies emotional intensity. The mind can create scenarios far more vivid than reality itself, which is why the anticipation of intimacy can sometimes feel more powerful than intimacy after it actually occurs. Because once something becomes real, uncertainty disappears. And without uncertainty, anticipation fades. Another element that makes sexual tension so powerful is mystery. Love grows through familiarity, but tension grows through the unknown. When two people know everything about each other, their connection becomes stable, comfortable, predictable, and stability is essential for long-term emotional bonds. But mystery activates curiosity, and curiosity activates attention. The mind becomes fascinated with what it cannot fully understand. This is why tension often develops most strongly in situations where two people are not completely available to each other. Perhaps they meet occasionally. Perhaps their connection is limited by circumstances. Perhaps they simply do not fully reveal their feelings. In these situations, the mind fills the gaps with imagination, and imagination intensifies desire. Another fascinating aspect of sexual tension is the way people project meaning onto the other person. When we spend long periods imagining what someone might feel about us, we begin constructing an emotional story. We interpret small gestures as signs. We analyze conversations. We remember details. And gradually the person becomes more significant in our minds than they might be in reality. This is not deception. It is simply the brain trying to understand something emotionally important. But projection can amplify attraction, because we are not only responding to the other person, we are responding to the story our mind has created about them. And that story can become extremely powerful. Sexual tension combines several powerful psychological ingredients at the same time: anticipation, mystery, uncertainty, emotional projection. These ingredients create a state of heightened awareness. Two people begin noticing each other more frequently, thinking about each other more often. Their interactions feel more meaningful than ordinary social exchanges. And because nothing has been resolved yet, the emotional energy continues building. This is why tension can sometimes feel overwhelming. The mind remains focused on the possibility, and possibility can be intoxicating. Love and sexual tension operate in different psychological spaces. Love grows through stability, through shared experiences, through trust and emotional familiarity. It deepens gradually over time. Sexual tension, on the other hand, thrives on uncertainty. It exists in moments where the future of the connection remains unclear, where curiosity remains alive, where the emotional story between two people is still unfolding. This difference explains why tension can feel more intense than love, because tension is driven by anticipation, and anticipation stimulates the brain's emotional systems in powerful ways. But anticipation cannot last forever. Eventually, the tension either transforms into a real relationship or slowly fades, And when that happens, the emotional energy that once felt so intense often changes form. When sexual tension eventually resolves into intimacy, something interesting happens. The mystery disappears, the unanswered questions become answered, and the brain slowly adjusts to the new reality. For some people, this transition strengthens the connection. The emotional energy evolves into deeper intimacy. But for others, the intensity fades, not because attraction disappears, but because the psychological conditions that created the tension no longer exist. This is why some relationships that begin with incredible passion later struggle to maintain that same intensity. Because tension thrives on uncertainty, while love thrives on stability. And balancing these two forces is one of the greatest challenges in human relationships. Another important reason sexual tension can sometimes feel stronger than love is the role of emotional distance. Distance has a strange psychological effect on the human mind. When something meaningful feels slightly out of reach, the brain does not simply ignore it. Instead, it often becomes more focused on it. This is because the human mind is designed to pay attention to things that are uncertain. Certainty relaxes the brain, but uncertainty activates it. When two people feel attraction but remain emotionally or physically distant from each other, the connection becomes suspended in a space where the outcome is unknown. And the unknown is incredibly stimulating for the mind. Because when the future of a connection remains uncertain, the brain continues analyzing it. It replays conversations. It remembers subtle gestures. It imagines possible scenarios. And imagination can amplify emotional intensity far beyond what reality might eventually deliver. This is one of the quiet psychological reasons sexual tension can feel so powerful. Because the mind is not simply responding to the person in front of it. It is responding to the possibility of what that person might represent. A new emotional experience, a new chapter, a new sense of excitement. And possibilities are often more intoxicating than certainty. Another psychological element that intensifies sexual tension is what researchers sometimes call the fantasy effect. When two people have not yet fully entered a relationship, the mind fills the unknown spaces with imagination. You do not yet know every detail about the other person. You do not yet know how they behave in everyday situations. So the mind quietly fills those gaps with idealized versions of the person. You imagine the conversations you might have, the experiences you might share, the emotional connection that could develop between you. And these imagined possibilities can create a powerful emotional atmosphere. Because fantasy removes the imperfections of reality. In imagination, the connection can feel almost perfect. But real relationships eventually introduce complexity, differences, misunderstandings, daily routines. And while those elements are necessary for real intimacy, they also change the emotional intensity of the connection. This is why some people remember periods of tension or longing more vividly than long-term relationships themselves. Because those moments existed inside the imagination as much as in reality. Sexual tension also contains an element that love often tries to avoid: risk. When two people sense attraction but have not yet expressed it openly, there is always a possibility of rejection. and risk activates emotional awareness. The mind becomes cautious, observant, sensitive to signals. Even small gestures suddenly carry emotional weight. Did they smile differently? Did their voice sound warmer? Did their attention linger longer than usual? These signals become important because the brain is trying to understand whether the attraction is mutual. And this constant emotional analysis creates intensity. It makes the connection feel alive, dynamic, unpredictable. Love, on the other hand, gradually removes many of these risks. Once two people establish trust and emotional commitment, the uncertainty that once fueled tension decreases. And while this stability creates comfort and security, it also reduces the psychological energy that uncertainty once generated. This does not mean love is weaker. It simply means love operates in a different emotional environment. There is also a memory component to sexual tension. Human memory tends to preserve emotionally intense experiences more vividly than stable ones. Moments of anticipation, uncertainty, and emotional risk create stronger neurological impressions, which is why people sometimes remember brief connections or unresolved attractions many years later. The mind returns to those memories not because the relationship was necessarily deeper, but because the emotional energy during those moments was unusually strong. Tension creates emotional spikes, and emotional spikes become memorable. Love, by contrast, often becomes woven into everyday life. Quiet, stable, consistent, which can make it feel less dramatic in memory even when it is far more meaningful in reality. Sexual tension can feel stronger than love because it lives in the space of possibility, a space where the mind imagines what might happen rather than experiencing what already exists. In that space, anticipation grows, curiosity deepens, and emotional energy becomes concentrated around a connection that has not yet fully formed. But tension is not the same as love. Tension is intensity. Love is depth. Tension thrives on uncertainty. Love grows through understanding. Both experiences are powerful in their own ways, but they serve different purposes in human relationships. Tension awakens attention. Love builds connection. And learning to recognize the difference between the two allows us to understand our emotions with greater clarity. Because sometimes what feels overwhelming is not love itself, but the psychological power of something unresolved. If this exploration helped you understand something deeper about attraction, anticipation, and human connection, subscribe to Voxlore Audio, because the most powerful forces shaping human relationships are often the ones we never stop to analyze.